Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. I've got a bit of a cold, so I'll do my best to project. I think tonight I would just talk a little bit about the 8-day retreat we did last week. I'll talk a little bit about a couple of things that came up for me that I thought that were interesting, that I might just want to share. Some of the, maybe they're a little bit more unconventional teachings than our usual teachings. We used as a practice tool, a teaching tool during this retreat, the Diamond Sutra, which we talked about in a couple of different ways. We read a little bit. I think I'll just paraphrase the end of the Diamond Sutra to start. And at the end of the Diamond Sutra, the Buddha says, "Thus shall you view this world. View this world as a phantasm, a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a drop of dew." What he's expressing there, I think, is the ephemeral quality of our experience. And I think very simply, we get stuck because we view our world as solid. We attach to name and form. We attach to situations. We want things to have a particular outcome. And because of that, we suffer. This world is uncontrollable. Things happen that we don't have a lot of say over. And we suffer in our resistance to what is, and in our desire for things to be other than they are. But from the perspective of the Diamond Sutra, it's very important to realize that this world is always changing. What the Diamond Sutra and Mahayana Buddhism teaches in general is the changing quality of this world. And if you just recognize that things are always changing, you realize that they're impermanent. We humans have quite a bit of difficulty with impermanence. We like what we like, we want what we want, and we want to keep what we want. Sometimes we paraphrase what the Buddha said to say human beings suffer because either we want what we don't have, or we're afraid to lose what we do have. And we're constantly caught in that bind. And you can say it's a bind of attachment. It's a bind of trying to grasp things. You can't grasp a flash of lightning. You can't grasp a bubble. A drop of dew comes and goes. You could just imagine trying to hold this little drop of dew, and in our handling of it, we lose it. It'll be absorbed right into the skin. It's gone. So, we really need to learn and really experientially get this sense of impermanence and find a way to work with it. I don't know if Paul said this in my introduction or not, and most of you know this, but I'm also a psychotherapist. And I work with many, many people. And we human beings have an incredible array of ways to get confused and get lost. You just look around this room, each one of us is different. Each one of us has our own particular way of organizing the world and then attaching to what we've organized and believing that what we've created is the way the world is. but it's in many ways just a reflection of our minds. One of the days on our meditation retreat, I had this interesting experience where I had an image come to mind. And I think, if I remember right, it was something about my childhood. And as soon as the image arose, that whole world arose with it. And I so completely could experience, in 1 second, one flash, the entire gestalt of the whole experience. I could sense it. I could feel it. My body responded. It was almost as if I could get the sounds and the smells associated with it. So I found this interesting. You know, when you're on a long meditation retreat, things that usually would just pass you right by can become very interesting. There's not a lot to grab your attention. So this thing about how this image arose became fascinating to me. So very quickly, I jumped from one experience to the other of my childhood. And I must have gone through 5 or 10 of them. And in each moment, the whole thing arose as if it was alive again. And the thoughts, the feelings, the smells, the sounds, my reactions, all of them were so vivid in a snap. And I got this sense of how incredibly amazing our imagination is. This is the old standard trick, but elephant. You all have an elephant in your minds now. In that second, we create the world. Think of, well, I don't want to say it this way. I'm not asking you to do this actually, but this building that we're sitting in, somebody imagined this building. There was a plot of land, and there was a group, it was some kind of Christian group, wanted a church on this piece of property. And they went to an architect, and they said, we want to build something here. And the architect had a vision, an imagination. And then he sat down to draw what he imagined. The group accepted what he drew, probably, I imagine, after some back and forth. And then they bought materials. Somebody cut these fir trees down. And these fir trees were milled into flooring. Underneath this flooring are floor joists. I think they're 2x6s. And underneath those 2x6s are beams. My guess is they're 4x10s or 4x12s that run through this building, all the way from this wall to the back wall. And there are other wood and then plaster, wires, plumbing. All these things were actually created out of somebody's imagination. And out of that imagination, it took shape and what we call form. But it was all grown out of a little imagination bubble. And our whole world is really like that. Everything in our physical world, we think it's real. We think it's solid and permanent. And it originated with some little piece of imagination, one thought-feeling complex that grew into a building or a floor. It feels so concrete. In fact, there's concrete under here. But it all grew out of our imagination. All of our problems also grow out of our imagination. We make them up. Now, of course, there are situations that we deal with that are difficult. But it's all a product of imagination. It's all made up. So the Buddha said, view each thing as a flash of lightning, a drop of dew, a bubble in a stream. It arises out of nothing. we have this human capacity is incredible. We can make physical what we imagine. I don't know if this is exactly true, but my hunch is anything that can be imagined can ultimately be created. This human mind has this incredible ability to be rational, to study, to figure out laws of the universe and use those laws to create things. I've said this many times, but when I was a child, there was the Dick Tracy comic strip. And this started in the 1930s, I think. And Dick Tracy had this watch that he could talk into, and other people would hear it. As a child, looking at that, that was the most absurd, magical thing in the world. And yet now we take it as so commonplace, we're not amazed every time we pick up our cell phones and we communicate wirelessly with somebody else. We grow so used to things and we forget the miracle that it actually is. The fact that we can push or in this room it's like a lever, a switch, and these lights come on instantaneously. That's amazing. That's a miracle. But because we're so used to it, we forget. And on a meditation retreat, you get a chance to remember. Since there's so little stimuli, you taste your soup, and it's the most incredible taste in the world. In our everyday life, we get bored with what we eat. We're always looking for that new restaurant, that new food that we haven't had before. But on retreat, that one spoonful of soup, that bite into a piece of kimchi is an incredible experience. So many times I've finished a retreat, either here at Empty Gate or in other places, and somebody doesn't say, "That was the best food I ever ate." I remember the very first long retreat I sat at, some woman said that. And, I kind of believed her. Now I realize it's not the food, it's our minds. Our minds make everything. And if we can remember that, we can find some freedom there. And remember, Buddhism is about freedom and liberation. So, maybe two other things. I think some of you have heard me talk about this image of the sky and the clouds. And if I'm not mistaken, a Tibetan style of Buddhism, Dzogchen, they have a meditation called Big Sky Meditation. And my experience of it is, again, working with people so as much as I do, I realized that we identify with our problems, or we identify with our bodies. We identify with form. So, figuratively, we identify with the cloud. A cloud passes by, and we believe we're the cloud. But actually, we're the sky that holds the cloud. The sky can hold anything. Now, I'm really playing with this image a little bit, but you can almost imagine that the clouds are imagination. The sky can hold anything. It can be this horrendous storm cloud that human beings on Earth are afraid of. Maybe some will die from that storm. The sky doesn't care. Soon the storm will pass, the cloud will pass. The blue sky is always behind the cloud. And I started working with this image. And as problems in my life or issues I was dealing with or just any kind of situation would come up, I would see how my mind would coalesce around it and my vision would get small. So if I could shift out of that and go back into the sky, everything was different. things would just come and go. But we get locked into these ideas and these fears and these feelings, and we hold on to that cloud so tightly that we believe that's who we are. But if we could remember the sky, we have a place to fall back into, to move our attention backwards. We're always saying we're more than our thoughts and feelings and body. Our thoughts, our feelings, our bodies, our life situations, all the fantasies, dreams, ideas we have are held in something larger. And if we can find that larger space, there's some freedom. There's some relief, actually. And so many people who come to practice are looking for relief. Our difficulties, our struggles, we feel so tightly bound. In a switch of perspective, we can feel freedom. You know, another image that often is used is the image of the ocean and the waves. Each wave can be very powerful, and a wave can hit somebody and kill them. But the wave comes and goes. The wave is just the ocean. I don't even know how to explain it, but you get the point. It's the ocean, gravity pulls it, and this wave rises up. I don't even understand the science of it. And then the wave is discrete, and it's unique. It's a thing in and of itself. At the exact same time, it's completely ocean. There's no difference. Another image I like is of a tree or a bush. On a bush, there are hundreds or thousands of leaves. Each leaf has its own unique life, but the leaf is not separate from the bush. It never is. Some leaves get too much sun and they burn and become brown and maybe dry up and die. Other leaves stay quite green and fresh, but it's the same bush. We often see ourselves as these isolated, separate beings. What Buddha taught was everything is interconnected. Thich Nhat Hanh used the word interbeing. We're all one thing. We each have our discrete uniqueness, like a leaf on a bush. We all have our own age, backgrounds, conditions, but we're all intimately connected and never separate from the entirety of things. And I know for myself, one of the beauties of sitting a long meditation retreat are those moments of experiencing that. It's not a theory. It's something we can know. All of us have those momentary experiences. Zen Master Bon Soeng, our founding teacher, used to say, enlightenment is easy to get, hard to keep. So many of us know that experience of things dropping away for a moment. He used to say, just go to the movies. You watch a movie, you get completely engrossed in the movie. There's no I, there's no you, there's just the reality of the movie. The movie ends, we're back to ourselves. I remember one time, I remember the movie, it was the Truman Show, and I was getting a little bored in the movie. And I started to look around at all the people in the movie theater, and just like one pointed focus, just completely connected. The movie and them became one. They were in a trance, really. I broke the trance. I was bored. The trance broke. My experience changed. But we all get lost in trances all the time. That's human. That's okay. The mistake is believing that the trance is real. And doing longer practices help us have those experiences. The retreat schedule, the practice schedule at Empty Gate Zen Center is built around retreats. Every month we either have a one-day meditation retreat or a 3-day meditation retreat, and once a year we have an 8-day sit. And we do this, we come back. So many of the retreats are attended by the same people. We have a core group of 10, 15, 20 people who show up to almost every retreat. Maybe half, maybe 3/4. There's a group that just knows it's retreat time again. And we come back and we just sit long enough to loosen the grip of our illusion, to experience something different than our fantasies, our beliefs, and our illusions. And that gives us some momentum and some ability to work with the situations of our daily life, to try to remember that the world isn't the way I think it is. What I believe is not necessarily true. So I was going to talk a little bit more about practice forms, but I think I'll skip that for now and save that for another night. And I guess just want to close to encourage everybody. If you really want to practice Zen, or really any kind of Buddhism, you have to do it. You can't read about it. You can read about it, that helps some. But the effort, the doing of it, is where the practice really lies. And whether it's at this Zen Center, or another Zen Center, another type of Buddhism, a Christian meditation, a Jewish meditation, an Islamic meditation, it makes no difference. You have to do it. You have to practice. And really, every moment of our lives is practice. What am I doing right now? What is it that's going on? To take the opportunity that the moment presents to us to wake up, to see ourselves, to see what we're doing. And formal practice and formal retreats are the training ground that give us the practice to be able to bring it out into our everyday life. So I just really want to encourage everyone, according to their ability, according to their own life situation, to find a way to actually do it. Don't just think about it, do it.